If you yell 1 decibel louder, I might finally wake up. It's been a rough last 12 hours or whatever it's been from a sleep deprivation standpoint.
What time did you get in?
Let's see. I like 3:30, I think, something like that. I think by the time I got to the hotel, by the time my head hit the pillow, it was like 4:30.
How big of a moment, Howie, was that for you personally? Before we get into the team aspect, for you personally.
A lot of times you appreciate it more down the road. And now that we're in the age of social media, where I can see the reaction to it as I have and been so totally overwhelmed by it, I'm aware of the moment's magnitude because of the home run. Forget the call. It's just, the home run and what it meant to the Mets and means to the Mets and certainly what it meant to Pete. I mean, you think of the narrative, and I tried to get into that as he came into the batter's box last night. It might very well have been his last plate appearance as a Met. And when you consider the struggles that he'd endured recently, sort of punctuated by that drop foul pop-up, there was to it that you really hoped that Pete would somehow be able to overcome. And he overcame it in the most dramatic, tremendous way possible that I know will resonate years to come. But I think, and I'll compare it, I'm not comparing the call now, I'm comparing the moment. I think what made Stefan Matteau's goal so big is that the Rangers went on to win the Stanley Cup that year in 1994. And I think this home run is huge. It will always be huge. They'll be talking about the home run in 50 years. But it'll take on something of epic proportions if they go on to win the whole thing.
Oh, no question.
That's where they're aiming, and that's what's on the table here. And that's what made last night so great, is that it enables them now to try to take the next step. And I said this to you guys at the very beginning of our conversations a few weeks ago. It's wide open this year. There is no superpower. You see already what happened in the American League Division Series. It's anybody's championship to win, and that includes the New York Mets.
Howie, it's your responsibility to obviously convey the imagery here, but also, if you do, because you're still a human and, you want the Mets to win, when things will feel bleak or turn bleak, that you can't necessarily project that on the air. When they're down 2-0 and they're running wild, stealing bases without a throw late in the game and Diaz is on the mound, there had to be a part of you that thought it was over.
Well, you certainly didn't like the trend. And I think most other years you would probably adopt that mindset that, boy, this is hardly something that's likely to happen. And it wasn't likely even last night, of course. But what they've done so often by winning the number of games that they have in the late innings and pulling off the near miracles that they have on a couple of occasions, most notably, of course, Monday in Game 1 in Atlanta, all I thought about was as we went to the ninth inning, and by the way, you go back to Diaz getting Contreras there in the seventh inning to leave the bases loaded, or second, third, I think it was, after the stolen base. There was a double steal, right? And that made it second and third.
Yep.
And those were two gigantic runs that Diaz was able to make the Brewers leave in scoring position. So the fact that it was two meant all you needed was a base runner to get the tying run to the plate. And that was kind of my mindset when the ninth inning started. And, of course, Lindor has been in the middle of so many of these special moments this year. He had a great at-bat, not surprisingly. I think it was an 8-pitch at-bat. And when he walked, in my mind, it was, here we go. It was, even after Vientos struck out, the fact that they had the tying run to the plate, knowing that despite the fact that, Brandon Nimmo hit something like 224, but he drove in 90 runs, and one of the reasons he was able to do that is that he had so many big hits with men in scoring position. There wasn't anybody in scoring position yet, but he would get Lindor to third with his base hit. Now you're in business. And that's when the drama of Pete's plate appearance began, with so many thoughts swirling in my head. And just from a broadcaster standpoint, all I wanted to do was create a narrative that all of us felt. I just wanted to articulate it. His struggles, We all knew it could have been his last plate appearance as a Met. And does he have a big swing in him here? And I know a lot of people on social media today they call it what? The money ball recreation of some of these big moments.
Yes.
Well, I saw it, I heard it, and I saw the movie. I don't remember the music, and I've been told that it was the Scott Hatteberg home run that was central to that. But all I could think of was the natural. When that ball left and Pete's home run was in the seats. I had everything but the light stanchions popping, the light bulbs the way they did in the natural and the fireworks exploding. It was a Hollywood moment. And for Pete to have been, the one who played the star, I mean, that was right out of central casting. And it will remember it forever, whatever happens. But think of how much bigger it'll be if they go on to win this thing.
Still even hard to believe now when hearing you describe it. And my favorite part about your call was the disbelief, and not the disbelief that Pete couldn't get it done, but like, holy crap, he actually did it.
Yeah, it seems going back, I guess if I had to trace it back to where it seemed that younger Met fans than I started to expect the ceiling to cave in. You go back to the Mike Scioscia home run against Doc in '88, and the Terry Pendleton home run the year before in a regular season game, and it started to develop this mindset about Mets fans of a generation younger than mine that something bad was going to happen sooner or later. And that home run that Alonso hit flipped the script. And it brought back memories of my generation's greatest moments going back to 1969. And, I heard from Ron Swoboda today. I heard from Ed Kranepool's son, Keith, today. And I told them that I have a feeling that, Ed and Buddy and all the others we've lost from that 1969 team, I think they've gotten together in the last little while, and they're up to something.
That's fantastic, man. We're talking to Howie Rose, BT and Sal here on The Fan. So I saw this very early this morning. I put my guys off to it, and they've since seen it. Everybody's seen it, I would hope by now. But I want to describe it for those who did not. There is a video of you in your seat on the charter airplane. It's on the verified Mets account. If you guys want to go check this out, you have to. And they play your call. And like most broadcasters who can't stand the sound of our own voice, you actually you put your hands over your ears in a very humble manner, and then the entire plane, as they just pump this call through the plane, starts cheering and chanting, and Howie stands up, and he goes back to Pete in the back of the plane. You guys get an embrace. What in the world did that feel like for you?
I'm not even sure I can explain it yet. I'll say this. I was 15 years old in 1969, and it was the happiest moment of my youth, and they're making a 70-year-old feel 15 again. Mm. And I'm telling you, when I put my hands to my ears there, I think only my brethren who do what I do for a living can understand how embarrassing it is for us to have our calls played in front of other people. It's not necessarily about being uncomfortable, having attention drawn to us. That's uncomfortable on one level. But at the level it was last night, I wanted to hide under the seat until it became evident that it had gotten a little bit beyond that.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, frankly, go back and give Pete a hug. And I think I owe Harrison Bader a high five, because people have been kidding me all day who looked at that video and saw Harrison. As I was high-fiving a couple of people who put their hands up on my way back to Pete, I kind of slipped right past Bader, who had his hand up, and I felt it on my shoulder eventually, but I just wanted to get right to Pete there.
Wow, man. And I know that I'm not alone when I say this. I think all Met fans wish they could have given Pete a hug after last night. That was just incredible. Where does it rank, Howie? We talked about this the other day with Lindor. Where does this rank? For me, in my life, I'm 45, and I've always compared things to Piazza-like moments. That was better than anything that I've ever seen before as a fan. You've seen it all. Where does that moment rank in Mets history?
Well, it's right there. Todd Pratt hit a home run that won a playoff series. And maybe this is what I was getting at when I talk about how it resonates on an even higher level when you win the whole thing. Pratt hit a game-winning home run against the Diamondbacks in 1999 in the division series before before there was a wild card series. You just had one wild card team then. And, they had a great comeback in the LCS against the Braves, but they fell a run short in the sixth game, and that was that. And I think of the Pratt home run, and I go, yeah, that was great. Well, this home run also won a playoff series, and it came, frankly, as you compare them, one round earlier than Pratt. So we always get caught up in the moment. I think for me, this is going to be much bigger because, A, I was doing TV back then and could not broadcast that game. So I was sort of disconnected from it professionally. And now when I look at this, having been able to kind of piggyback this on top of the Lindor home run just 3 days prior, I mean, think of this for a minute. These two Mets moments, and I'm not talking about the calls now, I'm just talking about the Mets moments, they happened, 96 hours apart, if that? That's unbelievable. And you want to hear something else? And again, please understand, I am not drawing any attention to the call here. I'm just talking about the home runs. Do you know that Pete hit that home run last night on the anniversary, the same date, October 3rd, of Bobby Thompson's home run in 1951?
I saw that. I did know that. I did not know that until I saw that on social media. Yep.
Crazy, isn't it?
And the 99 series, I remember I was at that Todd Pratt game. The difference there, now obviously they would have had to face Randy Johnson in the Game 5, but the season wasn't on the line at that point, where last night. Well,
that's right. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a great point.
Last night he saved the season. I mean, they're down absolutely. To it. That's why, to me, even though I love that Pratt home run, it was a little different.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And shame on me for not even realizing that.
Well, you haven't slept
what no
yet.
Sleep does.
Yeah. By the way, did you at least suck down a couple beers on the way home? Did you get to party a little bit, Howie, or what?
I don't do well with alcohol on a plane.
Gotcha.
Bigelow teas, Howie. It's Bigelow teas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. You know what, Cindy? If you got something stronger than English breakfast, I'm all ears.
I got you. Well, we need those vocal cords ready, hopefully, for a lot more calls and good moments. And let's push this a little forward, at least try to get a sense of what might happen on the mound here. Howie Rose, by the way, BT and Sal. All right, so if this plays out the way we think it might, Sevy Game 2, Mania Game 3 on Tuesday, Peterson, McGill, is Senga an option tomorrow? What's going on Game 1? Who's starting?
Well, they've been very quiet about Senga other than to just kind of smile when his name comes up. And Mendy hasn't really seen him or had much contact with him. He's just going off of reports. And the attitude's been, well, if they tell us he's ready, then great. So I can't say that it's out of the question that he could be added to the roster, but I don't know that. I don't know exactly how advanced he's come in his throwing program and whether that's even plausible. There's a chance for them to put McGill on the roster for this series, right?
Yep.
And potentially even start tomorrow. Unless I'm forgetting when he last started. No, it couldn't have been.
No,
it was in Atlanta. Right?
Yeah, they were saying it would be Tyler. Wait, did he pitch Monday? You talking about? No. Severino pitched Game 1. He didn't pitch Game 2. No, Boyle. Yeah, Tyler McGill.
Right.
McGill could pitch them all.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, Tyler McGill would pitch Game 1. If not Peterson, I know we get the work in last night, or potentially Senga, because you'd have Sevy lined up, normal rest Game 2, Mania Game 3. Obviously, Quintana wouldn't be a factor until Game 4. So it's out of those three, Senga, Peterson, and Tyler McGill, you'd think.
For tomorrow. And I think at this point, McGill becomes the likeliest option. And one of the things I like about the possibility of McGill is that he's a little bit different pitcher than he was even earlier this year because he's kind of found that sinker. It's not, he's certainly not a polished major league starter to the point where he's got to be in your rotation. He's filled a role that's desperately needed, and maybe more so tomorrow than at any other time, certainly in his career. That's a small ballpark. You know the way the ball flies out of Citizens Bank. And a guy who has a chance to keep the ball on the ground, and Peterson certainly falls into that category too, is a very welcome thought. Now, you know, you got Schwarber and you got Harper from the left side in particular that, you know, you want to neutralize with a lefty, which is where Peterson comes in. He threw 1 inning last night, and I don't know that necessarily lines him up to start tomorrow, but that would have been the plan if they'd won more conventionally and hadn't had to use him. But hey, we'll see. And I just know one thing, that there are people probably around the country who are saying, well, you know, they're playing with house money. You try telling these guys they're playing with house money. They heard that before this series. They didn't believe it for a minute. You know, they felt that they had every much right to be involved in this thing as anybody else. They were right. They do. And let's see where it goes.
I cannot wait for it, Howie, and we can't wait to listen to you on the call tomorrow. Looking forward to talking to you next week as well. Mets-Phillies, Game 1. Thank you, Howie. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Awesome
Howie
job,
Rose's
Howie.
appearance was brought to you by Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly. Before we break, Pat Boyle was right. So Game 1, I'm getting confused here with all these games. I was wrong. Severino pitched Game 1 of the series in the wild card round, obviously. Game 1 against Atlanta was Tyler McGill on Monday, which means he would be on normal rest for Saturday. So it's going to be, we talked about this earlier, it's either going to be Tyler McGill or David Peterson if they want to go back to him after pitching an inning last night, or Kodai Senga, or some variation of, let's say, Senga into Peterson or McGill into Peterson. But I don't think you're going to have a scenario where you have both Tyler McGill and Kodai Senga
On the roster?
Yes.
I'm going to say McGill gets the ball tomorrow. That's my guess.